welcome back. So you probably heard the phrase business as usual. I want to show you today how best practice is killing your business. So let's go ahead and get right in. So it's human nature, right? We want to look at what everybody else is doing in business and try to model after them or see what everybody else is doing and try to do the same thing. And I'm all about learning from experts and not reinventing the wheel. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I talk about that a lot of times. And so I'm definitely for that, but we always have to put it through a lens of, again, our purpose, values, and vision, and make sure that we're looking through and making sure it's intrinsically what we need for our company. So every time I read a book, I always think, okay, I'm going to take in probably 80% of it, and I'm going to throw out 20%. You know, a lot of times that's kind of the ratio that seems to play out, is there's a lot of good truths in it, but there's about 20% that doesn't really work for me. So it's always important, again, to look at everything that filters in through your business, through the lens of your foundational things that make up your company. So I'm from the accounting world, and in the accounting world, if any of you have ever worked at a CPA firm, they have something called a SALY phrase, which stands for same as last year. And so when you go and you get work papers for a client that you did last year, you literally go and you grab this tub of work papers and you bring it to your desk and you look at last year, and then you pull the financial statements from this year and you literally just kind of like copy the steps, and that's all you're doing. It's so hard when we do that type of process to be able to look up and out and make sure that we're thinking through it and we're able to be innovative and creative. And so it's really important. What I want to talk to you about today is how we can kind of get stuck in that, hey, this is what we're supposed to do, this is what I'm doing, and then it just kind of cripples us as entrepreneurs. And so let's go ahead and dig into how we are often doing business as usual and really killing our creative spirit. Okay, so I already kind of briefly talked about, put it through your vision lens, like what is the vision for my company, and making sure that everything that you adopt within your company fits the vision. Your values, so make sure you know what your values are. Make sure they're actionable values that you have. And so that way you can say, okay, put it through the lens of values and say, okay, yep, those match whatever we're going to be implementing. And then there's something deeper. So one of the things there's a lot of problems, I think, in the world with not being willing to feel pain or not being willing to feel at all. And so I always talk about, in business, you've got to be willing to feel. And Tony Robbins actually talks about this concept about connecting your heart and your mind together and then using that to be able to make decisions. A lot of times we either think through our heart and we're just making emotional decisions, or we're thinking through our mind only and we're not seeing how the vision and all the foundational elements work together. So every time you make a decision, connect your mind and your heart together. And it's kind of an actual pretty cool phenomenon what happens. There's actually scientific evidence behind this where if you take the EEG diagram and the EKG diagram, so the EEG is the brain and the EKG is your heart, and you actually map it when somebody is connecting their heart and mind together, it's actually quite amazing. The actual graphs are literally on top of each other. And then when you do it, when you're not thinking with your mind and your heart together, the graphs are actually complete opposite of each other. And so I think in business, we forget to slow down for a minute, take a deep breath and say, okay, does this really align with what we're doing? We're just so desperate for answers that we sometimes lose sight of the big picture. Okay, so really these are all elements that tie to what I call the expert trap. And there's one more expert trap that I want to talk about that you might fall into. And it really is around the concept of innovation. Again, I talk a lot about this, I realize that. But it's because I've seen so many people cripple innovation and not be willing to test things. So what we need to do is look at your business, not about being perfect, not about documenting it all and creating perfect systems, but it's about, hey, test things and then see what breaks. If you're a small company or you're a growth company, you're at a stage where it's really easy to test and make mistakes because the risk is lower. You have less clients. You're gonna learn so much valuable knowledge by seeing if it breaks, testing things out, finding new ways to do things, and just start testing it. We're always looking for the box, that exactly what I need to do. And that's not what business is. And that's not your role either as an entrepreneur. So let's talk about the second thing a trap that entrepreneurs fall into when they get into the mode of business as usual or trying to figure out what everybody else is doing and kind of falling into that. So it really is around what I call the systems trap. I've seen entrepreneurs time and time again get stuck in this where they want to do something too soon, or they don't do something soon enough. And so it's really, you just got to start to understand the sequence of things that happen in business. So let me talk about how I kind of define systems first. So systems are really made up of people, process, and technology. A lot of times we think of it as, just technology or just a process that you're building, but it really is all three of those elements in that order. So for instance, to build a system, you first need to use people to start to build it and to test it. Again, it goes back to testing, figure out what's working. It's a lot easier to start to document stuff after you've kind of worked it through. So start with people, then start to build process, and then you can start to build technology, and then you can start to create different automations and things around that. So that's something that it's really easy to get stuck into wanting to automate something too soon, or I've seen so many people talk about, hey, I need a software for this. And so if you ever go in any business forums, you'll always see one of the questions is, has anybody ever used this software? Or what's a good software for this? And while software is great, I see the behind the scenes of that, what happens. So when an entrepreneur comes and works with me, how many times we've been asked, can you guys go and do the training for the software? Because I bought this software about 2 years ago and we still haven't used it. And then you dig in deeper with the client and then you realize they have about 20 softwares that aren't even being used. And so, and I'm not exaggerating on that either. There literally is so many softwares that entrepreneurs aren't even using because they're looking for the quick fix or the quick solutions. And it's not one thing that's gonna solve your problem. It's all of these holistically working together to make your life easier. And so again, it's people, process, technology in that order. And that's super important to just remember when you're building systems and processes. Every time we find a gap or an issue in our company, we literally think of it. People, process, technology, where's the gap in that and which one's out of balance? I'm actually gonna be doing another video on this exact concept where we talk about these three triangles and how they interact and how they play together. Okay, so the last trap I'm going to talk about is probably one you've never really thought of before, and it's a different way of looking at things. So I'm really excited to talk about that. But before I dig into that, I would like you to like this video if it's valuable for you. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and again, share it with other people that know about it. This is really how we can create a movement and help entrepreneurs is by helping each other out. So thank you so much for watching this, and I appreciate your time for doing that. Okay, so let's talk about the niche trap. And again, this is one that you probably have never thought of before. And all the experts are saying niche, 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 or as they often say niche, 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 right? Whatever, however you want to say it. But at the end of the day, niching is important. But the thing is with niching is that it's great from a revenue perspective and allows you to kind of hyper focus on what your core offering is for the business or for your customers. But the thing is that niching is actually bad when it comes to operations. And so what's happened is all of these companies have niched down over the last decade. So we have endless now productivity solutions out there, which is why if you're thinking, man, I got all these choices of software and all these different outsourcing solutions and all these things, well, what is it that I need to help make me productive? And that's where I want to kind of talk about the pros and cons of niching and how you need to be careful with this best practice that again is kind of mainstream in businesses today. Okay, so there's obviously a ton of components that go into business. And with niching, the thing that you can get into trouble with is that you kind of have to become an expert in all these different things to have a successful business, right? Whether it's marketing or sales or what I call omni support, which is all the different channels that you communicate with your customers, right? Whether that's email, text, phone, web chat, all of those different channels, it's created a very complicated model for businesses where it's like customers are demanding that you communicate with them how they want to be communicated with. And then you have to go and create this no matter the size of your company. And so it's actually complicated business for us. And so what I recommend is figuring out, always focus on how do I focus on my core? How do I focus on my 20% and get rid of the other 80%? Now you're in luck because I happen to create a company around this concept, and it's actually called team sourcing, where we take the 80% that's the same and we actually have the omni support and the sales and the technology and the accounting and the marketing to where you don't have to focus on the things that are the same in every business, allowing you to hyper focus on your core. And this is what creates massive momentum in your company and allows you to have that stress-free growth because you're not having to be an expert in everything. And so really just think of niching as good, but you're not really niched if you're having to become an expert in all these other departments as well. So just think about that as you're starting to kind of weigh, should I have an in-house team for this or should I outsource for this. Kind of weigh like what you're good at, what your superpower is related to your core. And then maybe there is something that is like your superpower that's like, I do want to create an in-house team for that. Like that's okay. Like I'm not saying you have to outsource everything. I just want you to be mindful of what things you're willing to have to build in-house and what things you can say, hey, I'm gonna leave it to the experts for that. So just keep that in mind. So really the difference in strategy between just kind of the companies, the okay companies that are kind of average and the exceptional companies that have really just created a massive amount of growth and are able to create a sustainable, scalable and replicable company is those that look at these traps and say, how can I avoid them? And are willing to treat their business differently. So if you want to dig deeper with this, with me, you can go to stressfreesupergrowth.com, where we're going to go deeper into these different elements of business and what you need to do when. So no matter if you're in the foundation, growth, or the momentum phase of your business, we'll actually walk you through the different traps you can actually run into and the speed bumps you can get along the way in those different phases. So if you want to learn more and dig deeper into these concepts, go to stressfreesupergrowth.com.